Okay, so we're talking to Charlotte Roberts, who does the choreography and the body poetry for the Bullets and Daffodils show, along with lots of other things, which we'll find out about very, very shortly. Now, Charlotte, to begin with, can you tell us how you got involved with the Bullets and Daffodils show, please?
Well, I met Dean through a colleague who I used to work with, and he gave me the music to listen to and asked me if I'd be interested in choreographing for the actors that were taking part in the show at the time. And I said yes, and I came down and started choreographing, and somehow we got to the point where I ended up on stage as well. So yeah, that's how I got involved, just a meeting through a colleague.
Right. Okay, now in the show itself, you do some particular dance routines to some of the pieces of music. How did you select those, or did Dean select those?
Dean chose them and asked me to try different movements to the different songs, and every time he's chosen one of the poems to dance to, it's always worked out as a really good collaboration. Obviously his musical ear playing into that as well, but yeah, it's been Dean's choice, and I've created the movement to it.
Now, you know, I mean, just to me, it's a rather unusual sort of thing to try and set dance to. How do you go about it? What's the thought process? If you pick one particular piece, and talk us through how you went about putting that together.
Well, I'll go through Disabled, because that's probably one of the slightly more abstract of the pieces, because it's a dance about the poem Disabled, but to a different piece of music. Now, for that, I read through the poem and I selected the most striking pieces of imagery that Wilfred Owen uses during that piece, and from that I used that to shape how my body would move if I was to interpret that line through dance. So no, I can't think of any of the lines from the poem.
That's right, I don't want to.
Yeah, so I used the lines from the poem to give me a starting point, a stimulus for dance, and then I'd start with a very pedestrian movement, sort of a very average everyday movement, and then build on it and make it slightly more lyrical, and working with the very staccato music, the very strong electric guitar gives you something really good to bounce off, and really work with the shockingness of the music. Really gives you something to work with.
Dance-related question.
For the benefit of those who are listening in black and white, Charlotte's wearing a marvellous T-shirt with a piece of jigsaw puzzle which looks like a dancer. Now, I know you've got your company is called Jigsaw Dance. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please, Charlotte?
Yeah, I started my company last year, and I work with children and adults with special needs and disabilities, and older people with dementia. I also provide, high quality dance and fitness classes for a range of people with different abilities, really. So I work with little ones. We do sensory dance sessions to help promote communication skills, social skills, and then I also go into nursing homes and do sensory work with older people with dementia, and sort of dance-based exercise in chairs for older people living in care homes, and it's just about bringing a social activity to people, and with the added benefit of exercise and interaction and fun and great music to dance to as well.
So when you go into an old people's home and you do some of your things there, what sort of reactions do you get from the people there?
Oh, well, it's a great reaction from people who were generally sat around quite still, and it's great to get them into a group activity, seeing them light up when the music comes on. And I've got all sorts of sensory equipment that I use. I've got shakers and ribbons and materials and balls and elastic stretchy materials to use as sort of resistance, and getting all those out and people enjoying the different textures and enjoying the different reactions, and just seeing them light up and smiles on people's faces and people really pleased that I've been into the home it's really nice. It's very rewarding.
Now, if there's somebody from a charity or a support group or somebody and they're listening to this and they're thinking this sounds like the sort of thing that we could do with, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, like all good businesses, I'm on Facebook. Just type in Jigsaw Dance into the search box on Facebook, or I've also got a website which is www.jigsawdance.co.uk.
Right, and where are you based, and what's the area you cover?
Well, I'm based on the Wirral at the moment, but I also cover, I go into North Wales to work with Your Space, which is an autistic after-school group for children on the autistic spectrum. So I go there at the end of every month, but I'm not restricted to the Wirral. I'm happy to branch out into wherever I work, really.
Okay, so I mean, what's your background in dance and performance and this? How did you actually get into all this in the first place?
Well, I've danced since I was 3. I've always danced, and I was quite pleased when I reached GCSEs that you could do a GCSE in dance. That was quite exciting. And then I found out you can do an A-levels in performing arts, which is also very exciting. And then the best thing, found you can do it at university. So I carried on. I had to do dance with history to appease my father, who, had to do something that wasn't just in case I couldn't dance anymore. Had to do the old academic subject as well. But yeah, so then from there I joined Wirral Youth Theatre to do some voluntary, and then I eventually became a part-time worker there, a pool worker, and then I worked for 3 years at the Wirral Autistic Society, working with adults with autism and doing creative and therapeutic dance there. And from then I set up Jigsaw Dance and started my own business, and I'm very proud of it and I love it.
Brilliant. So just remind us again, if people want to get in touch with you, how they can get in touch with you.
It's www.jigsawdance.co.uk, and there's a contact form on there, and also on Facebook you can send me a message or write on the wall.
Brilliant. Okay.
Do you have a favourite piece of music?
From
in general, to dance to or to listen to, whatever.
I don't think I could pick a favourite piece of music. I don't think I could even pick a top 10. I think I like, when I'm creating a dance, I like to have something that's quite challenging, which is why I probably disabled my favourite piece to perform in the piece. But I like dancing to all sorts and all different kinds of music, and I'm not only going to say, oh no, I only dance to classical music, or I only dance to street or hip hop. I think the more things you're open to, the better your dancing will be.
Right, now going back to the Bullets and Daffodils show, take a step back from the fact that you're actually in it. From a point of view of somebody that's watching it, what do you think to the show?
I think it's a really interesting show to find out more about the social aspect of World War One, and the sort of finding out how it affected people's families. And I think getting the perspective from Susan Owen is really interesting, because you always seem to get the soldier's perspective in war stories, and hearing Susan's perspective and hearing her feelings and her strong emotions about her son, who she obviously, we know, is her favourite son. I think that's really powerful. As I mentioned before, when I was at university, I did study history, and social history is my personal favourite side of history. So that finding out people's lives and finding out what went on whilst this shocking war was going on is really fascinating for me.
And from a theatre point of view, what do you think to the idea of taking Wilfred Owen's original poems and setting them to music?
I think it's a really good idea, because it's bringing it to a different audience. Somebody might not necessarily pick up a poem and read a poem, but they might listen to some music or have some music on in the background, or go and see a play or performance. And it's just a really exciting way to bring this phenomenal poetry to a different audience, really.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, well, shall I go and see the show? Should I not? What would you say to them?
I would say come and see our show. It's great. But bias aside, no, I think it's a really interesting insight and interpretation of the works of Wilfred Owen. And I think especially if you're a fan of Wilfred Owen and you enjoy his poetry, then seeing it interpreted in a different way, I think would be really interesting. And even if you're not, and you want to find out more about Wilfred Owen, I think you learn a lot about him and his family in the play as well.